My wife said, "I told my lawyer to take everything. You don't deserve a single thing." I said, "Okay." Then my lawyer showed her lawyer the prenup and the hidden accounts and the secret credit cards. She got everything she deserved. Nothing. All right, Reddit. Buckle up because this story is about the most satisfying day of my entire life. My ex-wife thought she was about to ruin me in divorce court. Turns out she had no idea who she was dealing with. Let me take you back to where it all started. I'm Brian, 34, and I work in logistics coordination for a regional shipping company in Pennsylvania. Not the most exciting job, but it pays well and I'm good at it. Been there since I was 26. Worked my way up from warehouse supervisor to regional coordinator. The job basically involves making sure thousands of packages get from point A to point B without anyone screwing it up, which requires being detail-oriented and about 3 steps ahead of everyone else at all times. I own a small 2-bedroom house that I bought at 28 when the housing market was still recovering. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. Paid for with my own money, and I fixed it up pretty nice over the years. Got a decent workshop in the garage where I restore vintage electronics as a hobby. Old radios, record players, that kind of thing. Find them at estate sales and thrift stores, fix them up, sell them for decent profit. It's therapeutic and it pays for my actual hobbies. I met Laura when I was 29 at a friend's wedding. She was a bridesmaid. I was a groomsman and we got paired up for the wedding party entrances. Classic setup, but whatever. It worked. She was funny, attractive, had this energy that made boring situations entertaining. Worked as an administrative assistant at a dental office, which she constantly complained about, but never actually tried to leave. Looking back, I should have noticed the red flags during our dating phase. She had this habit of talking about how her friends' boyfriends were always buying them expensive stuff, designer bags, jewelry, weekend trips. Never directly asking me to do the same, but dropping hints constantly like some kind of passive-aggressive treasure map. Oh wow. Brittany's boyfriend just surprised her with a trip to Miami for her birthday. That's so romantic. Did you see the necklace Josh got Amanda? Must be nice to be appreciated like that. I'd take her to nice dinners, plan thoughtful dates, get her gifts for birthdays and holidays. But it was never quite enough. There was always this underlying vibe that I should be doing more, spending more, proving myself more. We dated for about a year and a half before she started dropping marriage hints. And by hints, I mean she literally started sending me screenshots of engagement rings she liked. Subtle as a freight train. Here's where I made my first smart move that would pay off years later. Before I proposed, I talked to my dad about it. My old man's been divorced twice, so he knows the drill. He sat me down in his kitchen and gave me the best advice I ever got. Son, if you're going to marry this girl, you protect yourself first. Get a prenup. I know it's not romantic and she's going to pitch a fit about it, but trust me on this one. If things go south, you'll thank me. I didn't want to believe it at the time. Thought my relationship was different. That Laura and I were solid. But my dad's track record of being right about stuff was pretty much perfect. So, I listened. When I proposed, I did the whole romantic thing. Took her to this overlook outside the city where you can see the whole valley at sunset. Got down on one knee. The works. She said yes immediately. Started crying. Called her mom before we even got back to the car. She was genuinely happy and I thought I was making the right choice. The prenup conversation happened about 2 months into wedding planning. We were sitting in my living room going over budget stuff when I brought it up. Hey, so I want to talk about something before we get too far into this. What's up? I think we should do a prenup just to keep things clean and simple in case anything ever happens. The room temperature dropped about 40 degrees. Her smile vanished like I just told her I was dying. A prenup? Are you serious right now? Yeah, I think it makes sense. It protects both of us. Protects both of us, Brian. It protects you. It's basically you saying you don't trust me and you're already planning for our marriage to fail. That's not what it means. It's just smart financial planning. No, smart financial planning is trusting your future wife and not treating her like she's trying to rob you. This argument went on for about 3 weeks. She cried, got her friends involved, had her mom call me to say how hurt Laura was. The whole emotional manipulation playbook came out. But here's the thing about me. When I make a decision based on logic and sound advice, I don't fold just because someone's feelings get hurt. I stayed calm, repeated my position, and made it clear the prenup was non-negotiable. Either we signed it or we didn't get married. She eventually agreed, but not without making it clear how betrayed she felt. We went to a lawyer, Got a straightforward prenup drawn up that basically said what was mine before the marriage stayed mine and what was hers stayed hers. Any assets acquired during the marriage would be split fairly if we divorced. Pretty standard stuff. The wedding happened 6 months later. Small ceremony, mostly family and close friends. Her parents paid for most of it, which became a point of contention later. Everything seemed fine on the surface. We moved into my house together, combined finances partly, started the whole married life routine. Her moving in was an adjustment. Suddenly, my organized garage workshop had her storage boxes taking up space. My systematic approach to household management clashed with her habit of leaving dishes in the sink and clothes on the floor. I'd come home to find my tools moved from where I'd left them, mail scattered across the kitchen counter, and the thermostat set to whatever random temperature she'd last touched it. But I figured that's marriage compromise and adjustment. So I created designated spaces for her stuff. Implemented a basic chore rotation. Set up automatic bill payments so nothing would slip through the cracks. Tried to make it work without being controlling about it. First year of marriage was actually pretty good. We fell into a comfortable pattern. I'd go to work, she'd go to work. We'd make dinner together a few nights a week, watch shows, do normal couple stuff. I was content with it. We'd have these weekend routines where I'd work on electronics in the garage while she did whatever she wanted. Sometimes she'd paint or read or just scroll through her phone. Occasionally, we'd drive out to estate sales together. Me looking for old equipment and her looking for whatever caught her eye. It was peaceful in that mundane married way. Her birthday that first year, I planned a whole surprise thing. Reserved a private dining room at her favorite restaurant, invited her close friends, got her this nice jewelry she'd mentioned wanting. Nothing crazy expensive, but thoughtful. She seemed happy about it, posted a bunch of pictures on social media with captions about how lucky she was. But even then, there were these little comments. Her friend Kelly had gotten a Louis Vuitton bag for her birthday. Another friend got taken to New York for the weekend. There was always this underlying comparison game that I didn't realize I was supposed to be playing. I got her thoughtful gifts based on things she actually said she wanted. But apparently I was supposed to be buying expensive stuff she didn't ask for to prove something. The game had rules nobody told me about. But Laura wasn't actually content. Looking back, I can pinpoint exactly when things started shifting. About 18 months into the marriage, she started talking about unfulfilled potential and not feeling challenged by her administrative job. Started following all these lifestyle influencers on social media. Women who posted about luxury travel and designer clothes and living these supposedly perfect lives. Her spending habits changed. Suddenly, she needed better clothes for work. Needed better makeup because professional appearance matters. Needed a gym membership at the expensive place downtown instead of the perfectly fine YMCA 5 minutes away. Needed expensive face creams because skincare is an investment. Every month the credit card bills got a little higher. Every month there was a new thing she absolutely had to have. I tried talking to her about budgeting, suggested we sit down and actually plan out our finances together. That went about as well as the prenup conversation. Why are you always so worried about money? We both work. We're fine. We're fine because I plan ahead and don't spend everything we make. No, we're fine because I'm not boring and miserable like you. Maybe if you loosened up a little and actually lived instead of hoarding money like some kind of dragon, we'd be happier. That's when I started keeping separate finances. Not in an obvious way. I didn't tell her I was protecting myself. I just quietly started diverting portions of my paycheck into accounts she didn't know about. Set up a separate checking account at a different bank. Started using a different credit card for my personal expenses that didn't show up on our shared statements. My dad taught me something important early on. Always have exit money. Always have resources that belong only to you that nobody else can touch. Doesn't matter if you're married, dating, whatever. You need the ability to walk away if things go bad. So that's what I did. Every month, a chunk of my paycheck went into my private accounts. Bonuses from work went there too. Tax returns. Any side money from selling restored electronics. None of it touched our joint accounts. Laura never noticed because she was too busy spending what was in the joint account to wonder where the rest of my income was going. She figured I made what I made and that was it. Never occurred to her to actually check or ask questions. The secret credit cards came later. I needed to make larger purchases for my restoration hobby without it showing up on statements she could see. Plus, I wanted my own credit history separate from hers in case I ever needed to make moves without her knowledge. So, I opened 3 cards in my name only, kept them at my office, used them exclusively for my stuff. I'm not saying I was planning to divorce her at this point, but I was definitely preparing for the possibility. Call it pessimism or call it realism, but I wasn't going to get caught with my pants down if things went south. And boy did things go south. Year 3 of our marriage was when it really fell apart. Laura decided she wanted to go back to school to get her real estate license. Not because she was interested in real estate, but because she'd convinced herself she could make a ton of money selling luxury homes. Think about it, Brian. I could make 6 figures easy if I get in with the right firm. We'd be set. You realize you'd have to actually sell houses to make money, right? It's not guaranteed income. God, why do you always have to be so negative? Can't you just support my dreams for once? I'm being realistic. Real estate is competitive and you've never done sales before because you never believe in me. You want me to stay stuck in that miserable admin job forever, so I'm not a threat to your ego. That argument was basically the template for every fight we had for the next year. She wanted to take classes. I asked how we'd pay for it. She wanted to quit her job to focus on studying. I said that was financially insane. She accused me of sabotaging her future. I pointed out that I was the only one actually thinking about our future. She eventually enrolled in the classes anyway using our joint credit card, $2,000 for a course that would let her take the licensing exam. I found out when I checked the statement. When I confronted her about it, she didn't even pretend to feel bad. It's an investment in our future. You mean your future? You didn't even discuss it with me. I knew you'd say no, so I just did it. Someone in this marriage has to have ambition. That's when I knew for sure the marriage was over. Not because she spent the money, but because of how she justified it. She didn't see us as partners anymore. She saw me as an obstacle to whatever fantasy life she'd built in her head. The next few months were tense as hell. We barely spoke unless we had to. She'd stay out late studying with her course group, which I'm pretty sure was just going out with her friends. I worked longer hours at the office because going home felt like walking into a minefield. She passed her real estate exam on the second try and immediately started talking about how much money she was going to make. Started dressing differently, spending even more money on clothes and makeup, talking about investing in her brand. The first 3 months of her real estate career, she made exactly $0. No sales, no commissions, nothing. She blamed it on the market, blamed it on her broker not giving her good leads, blamed everyone except herself for not actually putting in the work. Meanwhile, I'm still paying all the actual bills, mortgage, utilities, car payments, everything. She contributed nothing because real estate takes time to build up, and she needed to focus on networking. By month 4, she'd racked up about $8,000 in charges on our joint credit card, hair appointments, nail appointments, new professional wardrobe, lunches with potential clients, marketing materials, the works. When I tried to talk to her about it, she absolutely lost it. You're just jealous that I'm building something for myself while you're stuck in your dead-end warehouse job. I'm a regional logistics coordinator, not a warehouse worker. And my dead-end job is paying for your little real estate fantasy. You know what? I'm done. I'm so done with your negativity and your controlling bull. You've been holding me back this entire marriage, and I'm tired of it. Then leave. Door's right there. Maybe I will. And when I do, I'm taking you for everything you've got. This house, the cars, all of it. You'll regret treating me like this. That was the conversation that changed everything. She didn't know it yet, but she just played her hand way too early. Now I knew exactly what her plan was. Divorce me and try to take everything, but she had no idea what I'd been quietly putting in place for the last 3 years. The next day, she moved into her friend's apartment temporarily. Said she needed space to think. Fine by me. I immediately called the lawyer who'd handled our prenup. Hey, remember that prenup we did 4 years ago? Yeah, I think I'm going to need it soon. Can you walk me through what I need to do? Spent the next 2 hours on the phone with him, going over strategy. He reviewed our prenup, asked about assets, asked about debts, asked about everything. When I told him about the separate accounts and credit cards, he actually laughed. Smart man. Very smart. She's going to be unpleasantly surprised. 2 weeks after she moved out, she texted me. We need to talk about the divorce. I knew it was coming, but seeing it in writing still felt weird. Not sad weird, just weird. Like closing a book I should have stopped reading 2 years ago. Okay, when can you meet me at my lawyer's office tomorrow at 2? Wait, she already had a lawyer? She'd been gone 2 weeks and already lawyered up. That told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. She'd been planning this. That meant she'd probably been consulting with lawyers before she even moved out. Probably spent weeks researching how to maximize what she could take from me. The real estate career failure probably made her realize she needed a different income source, and divorcing me was the easiest path to money.
It all clicked into place.
The sudden decision to leave, the immediate lawyer, the way she'd been documenting everything toward the end, taking pictures of the house, asking questions about my income. She'd been building a case. Good thing I'd been building a defense for 3 years. Sure, send me the address. I called my lawyer immediately, told him about the meeting. He said he'd be there too, and that I should say as little as possible, and let him handle it. That night, I went through all my documents one more time. Made sure everything was organized, backed up, and ready to present.
The prenup was solid.
The separate account statements showed a clear paper trail. The credit card statements proved they were mine alone. I also pulled the history of all her charges on our joint credit card for the last 2 years. Every hair appointment, every clothing purchase, every lunch that was supposedly business-related. Created a spreadsheet breaking it down by category. Nearly $20,000 over 2 years on personal spending while contributing minimum income. If she wanted to play hardball, I had ammunition. My dad called that night to check in.
How you holding up?
Fine. Meeting with lawyers tomorrow. You got everything in order?
Everything.
Just like you taught me.
Good. Remember, stay calm.
Don't let emotions make you say something stupid. Let your lawyer do the talking.
That's what you pay him for. I know.
And son, don't feel bad about protecting what's yours. She made her choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences. I spent that whole evening mentally preparing. Went over possible scenarios, thought about what she might claim, rehearsed how I'd stay calm no matter what got said. Laura was emotional and reactive. I needed to be the opposite. The meeting was at this office in downtown Pittsburgh, one of those places with glass walls and expensive furniture that screams, "We're going to cost you a fortune." I got there 15 minutes early. Mark showed up 10 minutes later with a briefcase full of documents. Laura was already there with her lawyer when I arrived with mine. Her lawyer was this woman named Victoria, who looked like she litigated divorces for sport, probably in her mid-50s, wearing a suit that cost more than Laura's car, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She had this smile that wasn't really a smile, more like a predator showing teeth. My lawyer Mark was the opposite. Mid-40s, rumpled suit. Looked like he'd rather be fishing. But he had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless when he needed to be. Calm, methodical, didn't miss anything. We sat down in this conference room and Victoria immediately took control.
Thank you all for coming.
We're here to discuss the dissolution of the marriage between Brian and Laura. My client has asked me to make clear that she expects a fair and equitable distribution of all marital assets.
Mark just nodded. Okay.
What specifically is she asking for? Victoria slid a folder across the table. We've prepared a preliminary proposal. As you'll see, we're requesting 50% of the house value, 50% of all bank accounts, one of the vehicles, and spousal support for a period of 36 months while my client establishes her career. I looked at the numbers. She was basically asking for half of everything plus monthly payments. In total, it would have left me with almost nothing. Laura wouldn't even look at me. Just sat there staring at the table while her lawyer did the talking. Mark read through the proposal slowly. Didn't react at all. Just turned pages and occasionally made notes. Finally, he looked up. This is an interesting proposal, but I think we need to revisit a few things. Victoria's smile got sharper. I assure you everything is in line with Pennsylvania divorce law. Community property state marital assets are split 50-50. Oh, I'm aware, but I think you're operating under some incorrect assumptions about what actually constitutes marital assets in this case. He pulled out his own folder. Started laying documents on the table one by one. The prenup, bank statements for my separate accounts, credit card statements for the cards Laura didn't know about, property deeds showing the house was purchased before the marriage, title for my truck showing the same. As you can see, my client was quite prudent in protecting his premarital assets. The house was purchased by him alone 2 years before the marriage. The truck as well. The prenup, which your client signed willingly, clearly states that all premarital assets remain separate property. Victoria's smile faded a bit. Laura looked up for the first time, eyes going wide as she saw all the documents. Mark wasn't done. He pulled out more papers. Furthermore, these are statements for 3 accounts and 2 credit cards that your client was unaware of. All opened in my client's name only, funded with his income, used exclusively for his personal expenses. Since your client had no knowledge of or access to these accounts, they cannot be considered marital property. Laura's face went from pale to red. What the hell is this, Brian? You've been hiding money from me? I just shrugged. Protecting myself like I tried to protect us with the prenup you fought me on.
Victoria held up her hand.
Let's stay professional here, Mark. Even with the prenup, there are still marital assets that must be divided. The joint bank account, any equity built during the marriage, vehicles purchased during the marriage. The joint account currently has a balance of about $1,200, Mark interrupted. After your client spent the last 6 months racking up charges for her new career that has produced zero income. My client has statements showing $8,000 in charges over 4 months, all made by your client, none of which he authorized. He slid another document across. It was a full breakdown of every charge Laura had made, categorized and highlighted. Victoria's face was stone as she read it. As for vehicles purchased during the marriage, there weren't any. My client still drives his original truck. Your client drives a vehicle that was gifted to her by her parents. Title is in her name only, so that's not a marital asset either.
Laura's voice cracked. This is...
I spent 3 years married to you.
I deserve something.
Mark looked at her directly for the first time. Ma'am, the prenup your husband asked you to sign specifically outlined what would happen in this scenario. You agreed to it.
You signed it.
You can't now claim it's unfair just because you don't like the outcome. Victoria was flipping through all the documents Mark had provided. I could see her doing the math in her head, realizing her big payday case was evaporating.
What about spousal support? She tried.
My client gave up career opportunities to support the marriage.
Did she?
What opportunities specifically? Mark opened another folder because according to her employment history, she worked the same administrative job before and during the marriage. The real estate career was started 6 months ago, during which time she's made zero income and spent $8,000 of my client's money. He pulled out even more documents. Her real estate course completion certificate, her license, records from her brokerage showing zero sales. If anything, my client supported her career aspirations to his own financial detriment. There's no basis for spousal support when she voluntarily left a paying job to pursue an endeavor that hasn't produced results. The room was completely silent. Laura looked like she was about to cry. Victoria looked like she wanted to be literally anywhere else. So, let me make this simple, Mark said, organizing all his documents back into neat stacks. Based on the prenup, the separation of assets and Pennsylvania law, here's what the division actually looks like. He pulled out a single sheet of paper with a clean breakdown. The house remains my client's property. Value approximately $220,000.
All equity his.
His truck remains his property. His separate accounts remain his property. Total in those accounts approximately $85,000. His separate credit cards remain his responsibility. Current balance about $2,000, all used for documented personal expenses. He slid the paper across to Victoria. The joint account with $1,200 in it can be split 50-50. Your client's car gifted by her parents remains hers. The joint credit card with $8,000 in charges will be split. My client will pay half, $4,000, even though he didn't authorize the charges. He's willing to be generous. Victoria stared at the paper. You're saying my client gets $600 from the joint account and $4,000 in debt?
That's it.
That's what the prenup says. That's what the law says. That's what happens when someone spends 3 years racking up personal debt while contributing nothing financially to the marriage.
Laura exploded.
This is such.
You're a vindictive Brian.
You planned this. You've been planning this the whole time.
I stayed calm.
No, I've been protecting myself the whole time. There's a difference.
You hid money from me.
You lied to me about our finances. I kept separate accounts that I was under no obligation to tell you about. You spent 3 years spending our joint money like it was infinite. I spent 3 years making sure I'd be okay if you did exactly what you're doing right now.
Screw you.
You don't deserve any of it. I told Victoria to take everything from you, and that's what we're going to do.
Mark jumped in. No, you're not.
Because if you try to contest this prenup, we'll drag this out in court for months. We'll document every penny your client spent. Every charge, every decision she made that contributed to marital debt while producing zero income will make it very clear that she married my client, spent his money, contributed nothing financially, and is now trying to cash out. He leaned forward slightly. And when the judge sees this prenup, sees these records, sees how thoroughly my client documented everything, they're going to enforce it exactly as written. Your client will end up with exactly what we're offering now, except she'll also be responsible for her own legal fees, which given the amount of time you'd waste in court, would probably be about $15,000. Victoria knew she was beaten. She'd probably already done the math on how much she'd make off this case and realized it wasn't worth her time. Let me consult with my client privately. They stepped out of the conference room. Through the glass wall, I could see Laura crying and yelling while Victoria talked in calm, measured tones, probably explaining that she had no case and fighting this would just cost money she didn't have. They came back 10 minutes later. Laura's eyes were puffy and she wouldn't look at anyone. Victoria spoke quietly. "We'll accept the terms." Mark nodded and started pulling out signature papers.
Excellent.
"We can have this finalized within 60 days. My client will send half the joint account balance and his portion of the credit card debt to your client within 14 days. We signed everything. The whole time, Laura just stared at the table, crying silently. Part of me felt bad, but only a small part. She'd tried to take me for everything. She'd literally told her lawyer to destroy me. And now she was learning that actions have consequences. As we were packing up, Laura finally looked at me.
"I hope you're happy.
I hope your money keeps you warm at night. It'll do better than someone who spent 3 years using me as a bank account.
I loved you.
I actually loved you, and this is how you treat me. You loved what I provided. There's a difference." Mark put his hand on my shoulder.
"We're done here."
We walked out. In the elevator, Mark grinned at me. That was the most prepared I've ever seen a client for a divorce. The separate accounts, the documentation, the prenup. "You basically did my job for me. My dad taught me to always have an exit strategy."
Smart man.
A lot of guys get cleaned out because they trust the wrong person. You didn't make that mistake. 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. Laura sent me my half of the joint credit card debt via Venmo with the message, "You're a horrible person."
I didn't respond.
From what I heard through mutual friends, she moved back in with her parents after her friend got tired of her staying there rent-free. The real estate career never took off. She ended up going back to administrative work, apparently at the same dental office she'd left. Her friends tried texting me a few times saying I'd been cruel and that Laura was struggling. I blocked all of them.
Not my problem anymore.
My life actually got significantly better after the divorce. Without someone constantly spending money and starting arguments, I could finally breathe. Continued working my logistics job. Got another promotion last year that came with a nice salary bump.
The house is still mine. Fully paid off now.
The workshop is exactly how I want it. Spent the first few months just enjoying the silence. No arguments about money. No tension when I checked bank statements. No explaining why I didn't want to buy expensive things we didn't need.
Just peace.
I reorganized the entire house the way I wanted it. Converted the spare bedroom into a proper office since I was doing more work from home. Set up the workshop with all my equipment exactly where it made sense. Could leave a restoration project half finished without someone complaining it was making the garage messy. My Sundays became my favorite day of the week.
Wake up whenever.
Make coffee the way I like it without someone commenting on how much I make. Spend the entire day in the workshop or just doing nothing if that's what I felt like. No obligations, no compromises, no guilt trips. Work was actually thriving, too. That promotion I mentioned came because I'd been consistently exceeding targets and handling increasingly complex logistics coordination. My boss explicitly said they valued my attention to detail and ability to plan ahead, which felt like vindication after years of Laura calling those same traits controlling and suffocating. Started dating again about 6 months after the divorce was final.
Took it slow.
Wasn't looking for anything serious. Went on a few dates through apps. Met some decent women, but nothing clicked. I was in no rush. For the first time in years, I was actually happy being alone. Then I met Sarah at one of those vintage electronic shows where collectors buy and sell old equipment.
It was this huge convention center event.
Rows and rows of tables with vendors selling everything from old tube radios to vintage arcade machines. I was hunting for parts for a 1940s Philco radio I was restoring when I noticed this woman at the table next to me getting into a debate with the seller about the authenticity of some vintage hardware. She knew her stuff, was calling out details about manufacturing dates and original specifications that even the seller didn't know. She was probably early 30s, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she was absolutely schooling this dude about antique furniture restoration. After she walked away victorious with her purchase, I caught up to her. "Hey, that was impressive back there. Most people wouldn't know that level of detail."
She turned and grinned.
Guy was trying to pass off a reproduction as original. The stain was completely wrong for the time period and the hardware was modern replacement. Drives me crazy when sellers don't do their research. We ended up walking the whole convention together, geeking out over various finds. She restores vintage furniture as a hobby, has her own workshop with proper equipment, actually knows how to use power tools safely and correctly. When I mentioned I restore electronics, her eyes lit up. Oh man, I've been wanting to learn how to repair old amplifiers. I've got this 1960s hi-fi system that needs work, but I don't know enough about the electrical side. We exchanged numbers, met up the following weekend so I could look at her hi-fi system. Ended up spending 4 hours in her workshop troubleshooting the amplifier while she explained her furniture restoration process. It was the most natural, comfortable interaction I'd had with someone in years. Sarah and I have been together for over a year now, and it's everything my marriage wasn't. She's financially independent, has her own place, doesn't expect me to fund her life. When we go out, we split checks or take turns paying. She's never once hinted that I should buy her expensive gifts, or questioned how I spend my money. About 8 months ago, Sarah and I were having dinner at my place when my phone buzzed.
Text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Laura.
I know it's been a while, but I wanted to reach out. I've been thinking about everything and I realize I made mistakes. I'm sorry for how things ended. Maybe we could meet up and talk. I showed Sarah the message. She read it and laughed.
Let me guess. The ex?
Yep.
You going to respond?
Nope. I deleted it and went back to eating. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand.
Good choice.
Also, this chicken is amazing.
Did you brine it? 8 hours.
Learned it from a YouTube video. You really are perfect.
You know that?
That's when I knew I'd made the right choices.
All of them.
The prenup, the separate accounts, the documentation, walking away from someone who saw me as a resource instead of a partner. All of it led to sitting in my own house with someone who actually appreciated me for who I was, not what I could provide. Last I heard, Laura's working the same admin job, still living with her parents, still posting vague sad quotes on social media about being betrayed and underestimated. Her friends occasionally leave comments like, "You deserve better, Queen," and his loss.
Whatever helps them sleep at night.
Me, I sleep just fine in my house that's actually mine with money and accounts nobody can touch. Knowing I dodged the biggest financial bullet of my life. My dad called me a few months after the divorce was finalized. So, I heard through the grapevine it all worked out the way I told you it would.
Yeah, Pops, you were right. Prenup saved me.
Damn right it did. You know how many guys I've seen get absolutely destroyed because they thought love meant giving someone power over their whole life?
Too many. You were smart.
You protected yourself. And now you're free. That's how it's supposed to work. She tried to take everything though. Told her lawyer to clean me out.
He laughed. Of course she did.
They always do when they realize the gravy train stopping.
But you were prepared.
That's the difference between being smart and being stupid. Stupid guys trust and hope for the best. Smart guys protect themselves and hope they never need it. I should have listened to you earlier. Should have seen the red flags during dating. We all ignore red flags when we're in it. That's part of being human. But you did the important stuff. You got the prenup even when she fought you on it. You kept your finances separate even when it felt paranoid. You documented everything even when it seemed excessive. That's the discipline that matters. Think I'll get married again?
Maybe. Maybe not. But if you do, you'll do it smarter.
You'll know what to look for. You'll know what to protect. And you'll know that anyone who really loves you won't have a problem with you protecting yourself. He was right about that too. Sarah and I have been together for over a year now, and we've talked about finances openly. She has her own savings, her own accounts, her own credit. When I mentioned potentially getting a prenup if we ever got serious enough to marry, she didn't even blink. Obviously, I'd want one too. Why would anyone go into a marriage without protecting themselves? That's how I knew she was different. She understood that protecting yourself doesn't mean you don't trust someone. It means you're smart enough to plan for all possibilities. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gotten that prenup. If I just trusted Laura and merged everything, I'd probably be broke right now, paying her spousal support, living in some apartment and driving a beater while she spent my money on her lifestyle delusions. Instead, I'm sitting in my fully paid off house with healthy bank accounts, a girlfriend who has her own life and doesn't need me to fund hers, and actual peace of mind. The last update I got about Laura was from our mutual friend Jake, who said she'd been asking about me, wanted to know if I was seeing anyone, how I was doing, whether I ever thought about our marriage. Jake, being a good friend, told her I was doing great and left it at that. She did not take that well. He texted me, started going on about how you were probably still bitter and angry. I told her you seemed happier than you'd been in years and she got really quiet. Did she say anything else? Just asked if your new girlfriend was prettier than her. I told her that wasn't a question I was going to answer and changed the subject.
Classic Laura.
Still making everything about her. Still trying to frame herself as the victim. Still unable to accept that she torpedoed her own life. The best revenge really is living well. While she's stuck in the same place doing the same job and living with her parents at 32, I'm thriving. Better job, better relationship, better life. All because I made smart decisions when it mattered. Guys, we are so close to hitting 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.